Hi, I'm Vinny Wade. I'm delighted to be here today to have the opportunity to talk to you about the evolution of AI, and in particular, new trends in human-centric AI to try to put people back in control. The ADAPT Centre is a world-renowned research centre involving 8 universities hosted in Trinity College Dublin. And we focus on looking at next-generation digital media technologies and AI. And across the country, there's 300 researchers looking at the scientific and impact of technology in today's industry and in our lifestyles. What I'd like to do today is introduce some of the technologies and some of the issues that we're seeing both in the marketplace and in research today. Today, we're experiencing this fusion of the physical world and the digital world. AI and digital media are transforming our experience of social interaction, of identity, of governance, our working environments, and our lifestyles. Even before this lockdown in the global pandemic, we've been using digital more and more in everyday life. But now, even this conference today, we're using Zoom and we're using other technologies to try and break down the barriers and still be able to connect to each other. The pace and evolution seems to be going faster and faster and faster. Sometimes that increase is not always for the good. Today, we're seeing digital media and AI really focusing on automation, whether it be self-driving cars, whether it be the increasing speed of processing being able to access via cloud, or AI being able to be much more accurate in terms of its decision-making in very narrow domains. But we're also seeing the not so good. We're seeing the lack of control in AI because AI doesn't actually understand things. What it tends to do in data-driven AI is it looks at the data and then makes decisions on that, but it can't explain what it's doing. It's very difficult to control unless you're actually controlling the data itself. And even then, with the data, we have difficulties in terms of the privacy, where all our data is being shared and decisions being made about us, whereas we may not have actually control about that. Also, from enterprises' perspective, when they're data-driven, the difficulty is actually governing that data. If that data comes from multiple sources, do I have the responsibility and do I have the ownership to be able to make that data? We talk about data lakes, but actually a number of them have turned toxic because they can't be used because of that provenance problem, because of those issues and trust. And sadly, we're seeing more and more of this filter bubble problem, where because of the demands of advertising and because of the demands of being able to sell the individual's attention, we're seeing that personalization is being used just to keep people attentive, just to keep people online, rather than necessarily actually empowering them. You know, in the most recent articles around the social dilemma, we're seeing that our attention is what actually ends up being the product. And that's not always a good thing. The ADAPT Centre is really focused on the balanced digital society by 2030. What we're trying to do is look at how can we make AI that really empowers individuals, can really make them proactive, can it allow us to scale our activities, can it allow to integrate AI so that we stay in control. That means the enterprises get the benefit as well as the individuals, rather than just trying to automate the individual. We look at issues of control, inclusion, and accountability. It's sometimes difficult to visualize what that means. So one of the ways we talk about it is how we can look at different aspects and see them all together. We talk about digital empowerment and digital enhanced engagement. How can we actually, from an individual's perspective, how can we make digital media and digital AI and content, how can we actually empower that so that they can control it? They can have the systems go out and get the information they need, help them make the decisions they need to make, have the lifestyle that they want to have. From an algorithmic perspective, we look at what exactly are the algorithms in AI that we need to be able to do this? How do we actually extract knowledge from streams of text, image, video, VR, AR, speech? If I take example of speech, we think of speech as being the new landing page, where we want to have users to be able to ask for what they want in a much more natural and intuitive way. But we also know that media is actually becoming much more blended or much more multimodal, meaning that we can deliver the media in whatever form, in whatever context that the user wants, so that they can do what they need to do. In ADAPT, what we're looking at how we can actually develop next generation technologies to really enable digital transformation for scalability and inclusion. And then finally, how can we use digital technologies to actually support governance, to do this transparent digital governance across organizations? And it doesn't matter what sector of industry you're from, ICT, localization, digital media, fintech, e-health, agri-food, they all are struggling with these. What ADAPT does is bring those together to provide solutions for the digitally balanced society in 2030. Let's take quick examples. We think of a digital enhanced human as being somebody who is empowered to confidently and seamlessly use and interact with digital media, and where the digital media and AI can extend their profitability, extend their efficiency, extend their user satisfaction. But we're also looking at next generation personal agents. So these are agents which actually go out and do things for you, gather the information, perform the tasks, represent us in a digital world, but do it under our control. Do it in a way where we're the ones making sure that the actions are as we would do in the real world. We're also looking at how we can break down the barriers in digital media. How can we look at text, image, speech, video, VR, AR, and be able to combine them in multiple ways at runtime, be able to extract meaning from them at runtime. For example, ADAPT Technologies is being used by many multinationals now to be able to have global conversations where it's across multiple languages at the same time, discussing things in their language in the most amenable way, whether it be text, image, video, or virtual reality. But we're also finally looking at this issue of trust and data governance. How can we ensure that we have the relevant privacy, the relevant controls, and the relevant provenance of the information, so that we know what the information is doing and we can trust in that AI. So one of the things that ADAPT is doing is driving the standards on trustworthy AI across Europe. But we're also discussing with industry and other researchers from around the world to be able to bring out new frameworks, so be able to understand AI technology, but better than to be able to control it and be able to use it in more cases. We're seeing this evolution towards human-centric AI. We're seeing, yes, there is lots of automation in using AI and media, but more and more the user wants to be more in control. From a social perspective, we're seeing drivers and changes like things like GDPR, regulation, more data governance. We're also seeing the privacy concerns. People are worried about when they use a website, are they the product? From an AI research perspective, we're looking at how we can actually do more AI with less data. How do we not have to have these massive lakes of data to make good decisions? And how can we look at next generation data driven, which is more informed, which can actually use people's consent and actually explain what it's doing, this explainability. But we go further, how can we actually provide user empowerment rather than just automation? And the third driver for this is looking at the business itself. A lot of the business is actually built on the user being the product, where we're seeing that the services are free, but because the user data is being sold in the background, auctioned off in the background, where that is a model which has been around for nearly 20 years now, but is beginning to evolve. People are beginning to say, maybe there's a better way, and it's being open to disruption. It's not that we don't want to advertise, but what we are saying is that the services themselves should become the product. We can only do this if we do it together. ADAPT, as a research center, is looking to collaborate with industry, with other academics around the world, with institutions, to be able to look at how we can build this digital balanced society for 2030. We face a lot of challenges in digital media and AI today. However, together we can actually build a much more balanced and a much more fruitful society in the future. ADAPT would like to invite you to a breakout session later on this afternoon, where we can really begin to look at these issues and discuss with you what are the opportunities, what are the challenges in AI and digital media of the future. Thank you.